What's happening, champions? Today we find out how to light that creative spark and how to keep it lit. So maybe you've got writer's block, or maybe you just can't seem to finish that painting. Or maybe it's time for innovation in your company and you're really struggling. Either way, creative blocks can hold us back from getting to the next level, from achieving what we want to achieve, from producing what we want to produce and what we know that we already have in us, but for some reason we just can't seem to allow it to come out. And that really is the key word starting off right away. It's not about trying to force something out of you or trying to make yourself be creative. It's about putting yourself in the process and discovering your creativity and allowing it to flow through you. The worst thing we do when it comes to creativity is trying to envision and go straight for the ideal product, the ideal end result. It just ends up being procrastination with no progress. The best creations, all the best projects always come from a place of flow, a place of non-resistance. But usually what happens when we're struggling to create something is that we start to feel this tension, this pressure. Maybe there's a deadline. My suggestion is, lay all of that aside for a moment. The more you create, the better you get. That really is the secret. Create, 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 more and more every single day if you can. If you really value your creativity, you will find the time. Your real creative genius comes out when you're having fun, when you're in the process, when you're just enjoying creating instead of trying to aim for some specific end result. That's why it's okay to not perfectly recreate what you saw in your mind. Just move in the direction, and a lot of the greatest ideas will come up as you go. You just have to allow it and be the space for it to actually arrive. There's a lot of little obstacles and things that can go wrong. Maybe you're just tired one day and you really don't feel like it. But the key, regardless of whatever your problem is to first start off by putting yourself into the creative process. For me, it was about pressing that record button. For other people, it's about drawing the first line, writing the first word, playing the first chord. But regardless of what you want to be creative with, one thing I can guarantee you, and that is that if you don't get into the process, it's very unlikely that something will just hit you like lightning. So if you want to tap into your creativity, start being creative. Just get into it. Just warm yourself up, start doing something, and it's gonna start to put you in that state and bring you closer to a place where you can actually break through whatever that barrier is for you. So you put yourself into the creative process. Great. Now you have the opportunity to start to flow and bring something through you. But a big problem that we face in today's society is that we are constantly bombarded with other types of content, other people's work, and we're always consuming all of this stuff that people put out there. And although this can be a great source of inspiration, if you really want to get creative and you want to be a master at creativity, it's going to require you to disconnect from some of that stuff that you've been consuming. Meaning that if you're watching movies every single night or constantly hooked on TV shows and streams, it's going to be really hard for you to produce a lot of stuff because you're used to just taking. And although you might have an idea of how you want things to look and you might have a vague visualization and representation in your head of what it should be like, you struggle to actually bring that to life because you've been consuming so much. And creativity is a skill, it's a muscle, and it's something that builds up over time. As you use it, you get better, you improve, and it improves, and you can create better and greater things. When you overconsume content and don't produce much, your creativity basically is getting fat and lazy. You have to give it exercise. You have to take it outside and go for a walk over and over again every day if you want it to be nice and fit. An amazing rule that I used was that for every one piece of content that I consumed, whether it was a video or a podcast or something like that, I would create one piece of content, meaning that I wouldn't just be eating up other people's stuff, I would also be putting my stuff out there constantly, consistently, and this builds a lot of skill really quickly. And it means you should probably set yourself a deadline of when you want to complete projects or when you want to make progress. Another big part of this is switching your mindset when you are consuming. So taking in stuff can be great if you do so the right way. The right way being looking at it with a creative perspective. For me, movies and TV shows have been completely ruined because every time I watch something, I have the perspective of, oh, how did they create this? How did they put this together? And although that's not so great for the entertainment value of what I'm watching, and I don't buy as much into the story and everything that's going on the screen, it's amazing for me as a producer because I learn from other people's work and I can implement it into my own. It's amazing. Then what's going to be really important, if you want some deep, amazing creative juices flowing, is to find the right kind of inspiration. Becoming present to the moment is huge for creativity, so spending some time in nature, being outside, taking in the air, actually looking around you, but also if you're watching positive content that's uplifting. So what kind of content really strikes a deep chord in you? What makes you think? What makes you tick? What makes you want to go out there and create and create and create over and over again? There's something out there that when you look at it or listen to it, you instantly become inspired to go and create your own work. Whatever that is, grab it, watch it, listen to it, and then go ahead and start your creative process. And although this kind of inspiration can be a little bit of like a temporary solution, it's great when you're just getting started to get the momentum going, and then you just keep repeating the other steps and taking yourself deeper and deeper into the creative process, building up the skill, building up the muscle, building up the habit, and everything becomes that much easier. Now, a big tip that I have for you is anytime that you do watch that inspirational content, you go ahead and you write down a few notes, whether it's on an app in your phone or on a notepad or in a little notebook, just ideas that will help you once you go to your creative process. Now you have a little book or you have an app filled with ideas that you can use when you are actually starting to create. And another thing to realize is that a lot of the ideas, the best ideas, come to you at the weirdest of times, and to bring them to life, for most people it never happens because they never write it down, they never think about it again, and it just gets lost. So if you have a great idea, be ready to have great ideas, and more great ideas will come to you. You write them down, before you know it, you're just pouring out like a gold mine. I know this happens with me. Once I write down one idea, then all of a sudden I'm writing down 10, and then I can't sleep all night and my mind is just flowing with amazing ideas. And then I go ahead and I execute on them because I've actually written them down and they don't just get lost somewhere. A huge tip is also to prioritize. You can use a to-do list or any simple app for that matter. Which of these ideas are most powerful and the most amazing to you and that you really burn and are passionate about? Those are the ones to start with. A lot of the time we try to save our best ideas and wait for some perfect timing. And this is the biggest downfall of creatives, the perfectionist trait. Get rid of that. Stop making that excuse. It's a story that you're telling yourself where it's like, I have to be perfect. I have to make it just right. Otherwise, it's not worth making. You have to understand. Your idea of perfection can be somebody else's idea of failure. Your idea of having it just right might be someone else's idea of why the hell did he or she do that. So don't look at your idea of perfection as a starting point or as an end result that you should go for. Instead, be inspired by what you see as great and just move towards your creative spark. Just light your fire and do your thing, and the very best stuff will come out of you. To be successful at any art form, you have to create a lot over and over again, and you have to get used to finishing. So although you might pride yourself on the whole perfectionist thing, I suggest that you kind of push it aside a little bit. I know that I had to do that, and it hurts a little bit. Your ego is like, but I want to make it just right. And it's much better that you just put it out there, because as you continue to do so, you'll get better and better. Whereas if you're always thinking about getting it perfect, getting it just right, having it be on point, then more often than not, you will never end up finishing the project. Am I not right? Draw out your presence. Ask yourself one simple question. What do I want to communicate with what I am creating? Instead of focusing on that little image, that little idea of how it should be, focus on what you want to bring across. What is the message? What is the purpose of this content? And that will have a much bigger impact than any kind of specific perfectionism ideal that you have in your mind. Picasso said that good artists copy and great artists steal. But the very best creators in the world simply allow their creativity to flow through them. It's not some really hard work and effort that they have to try to put in all the time. It's really not something that is strained or difficult. One big question that you also need to ask yourself is, what's the story that you're telling yourself? Are you telling yourself that you're not a creative person, that you just don't have any creativity and you can't come up with any great ideas? if that's the story, you're not gonna be creative. You're literally telling your subconscious mind not to come up with anything whatsoever. Whereas when you let the ideas flow, when you write them down and you keep executing on them over and over and over again, your mind goes, oh wow, we're creative, we have a lot to offer, we have some amazing ideas and we know how to execute them, we're an amazing creative person. Keep feeding that creative spark with passion. Always try to do the projects that you most care about instead of making stuff that you don't want to make. Because in the end, that makes you miserable and it makes you feel out of alignment and like you're not being true to who you really are. You have the choice. You can decide that you have all the creativity in the world. If only you tell yourself that, before you know it, it'll become reality. If you keep getting stuck creatively, that's another story that you might potentially be selling yourself. That I just get stuck. I get writer's block. I don't know how to create. I don't know what to do next. I don't know. And before you know it, your subconscious mind goes, I don't have any more ideas for you. So it's really, really crucial that you tell yourself the right story, that you tell yourself that you have the creativity in you. Another huge point is not to judge your ideas too early, not to label them and say stupid or bad or weak or this will never work. When you do that, you're shutting it all down and you're telling yourself, well, there's no point to all of this. So whatever you come up with, you'll just bash it, no matter how good it is. That's a pattern that you want to avoid at all costs. You always want to make sure that any good idea that comes up, you praise it, you appreciate it, you sit with it for a little while, you write it down, you capture it, and you give it real value. That way more of them will come to you. Don't slap God's hand or the universe's hand in this situation. Reward yourself for coming up with this amazing stuff. Unlock that creative vault in your mind by constantly writing the ideas down, by always giving yourself the chance to actually capture them. And the more you capture them, the more of them you'll have, the more momentum you build, the greater the ideas that will come from your mind will be. We always say that someday equals no day. So do it now or forever hold your peace. I hope that you have enjoyed this video. Comment down below if you did. I read every comment and reply always. I'll see you champions on the next one. Enjoy. Peace.